beautiful humans. My name is Ariane Andrew
Matt Dillon, and welcome to another piping hot episode of Sippin' the Tea, where we what, Ariane?
where we sip the tea and our guests
Spill
that
tea. Oh, she's already spilling it, honey, but we ain't introduced you yet, so hold on.
Who you got over there?
We have Miss Mama, of course, and look at this little bitty scenario here. It's gonna be awake or asleep.
She's
Mama's
going to go night-night.
I'm gonna exit the house. All right, so we have Anjali Bhimani here with us. There's things called triple threats, full-time threats, voiceover artist, actress, film, television, Modern Family, part of season 2 of Special on Netflix, dropping May 20th. Ladies and gentlemen, we have look at this bright, fresh, brilliant personality. Welcome, my love.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me, you guys. I'm Anjali, and I'm super excited to be here.
Yes.
Yeah.
And apparently, my dog Charlie immediately is like, "Okay, I'm done showing off. Open the door for me and let me out." So 2 seconds.
Everybody,
Off you go, buddy.
goodbye.
What happens when we're live to tape?
That is it. Well, let's dive in.
Let's dig. So, Anjali girl, 2020 was a very interesting year. I think we all.
It was so boring. Nothing happened.
Oh, nothing at all. You know, we just went through one of the most craziest times in history. No big deal. But with that being said, you know, looking back, what would you say are 3 takeaways, whether it was positive or negative, that you had with 2020?
3 takeaways. You know what I would say, and it's not. They came out of potentially negative seeming circumstances, but they were very positive takeaways. Let's put it that way. The first one, which became apparent to me very early during the pandemic, soon after lockdown, was that time scarcity in many people's minds. In some people's minds, some people genuinely don't have time for a lot of things because they're doing a million things and they're handling so many responsibilities. But for me personally, I really noticed that time scarcity was much more a mindset and an attitude and a behavior in my world than an actuality. Because I'm very busy and I do a lot of things like everyone does. But when the pandemic first started and lockdown first started, and everyone was calling it the Great Reset or the Great Pause, and it was this sense of like, we're all going to have so much time to do so many things because we're stuck at home. And I had always thought, if only the world could pause and I could catch up. It would be so great if I could just catch up on all these things. Well, lockdown hit and my brain went into full tilt, feeling like I had even less time, trying to do more things and handle more things from home. And I realized more and more that it was the way I was thinking and the way I was doing things, multitasking, which is BS. There's no such thing as multitasking. You're just task switching and depleting your brain chemistry. And, there are studies on that. Multitasking is complete. I don't know if we can curse on this thing. So
girl, I just said, what's pussy popping?
All right, cool. Because I have a tendency to drop my phone.
Girl, spill the tea. This is what it's about.
Right, cool. But so I realized that this was very much something that I was imposing on myself. And it's funny because I've just been writing an article about this for Thrive Global. What finally got me to take it seriously, because I was super burnt, like at the end of 2020, I was so burnt out, even though theoretically there was quote unquote less work, I was doing more. I was so burnt out that it was like I had 3 years in one. And what finally got me to take it seriously, that I needed to reset my mindset, was, interestingly enough, things starting to reopen and me realizing, oh crap, we are going to see. I can't even do it. I was going to say, oh shit, and I edited.
You're professional, honey.
I know. I should. I speak French. The fact that I was like, oh shit, we're all going to go back to quote unquote the way it was. And if I don't adjust my schedule, if I don't adjust, if I don't add space for me to think and space for me to dream and space for me to create, or even just space for me to process information. Because even before the pandemic, even before all of that, everything, this constant digital deluge, as Jim Quick calls it, this constant deluge of information in the 24-hour news cycle, we don't take time to process the information that comes at us as much as we used to. You know, when we were in the school system, you had to read a book and write an essay on it or answer questions at the end of the chapter. And that's important to learning critical thinking. And we don't do that on Twitter. We don't do that when we're devouring hours and hours of news and when we're in this panic cycle. So if I don't build those practices into my life now, before we quote unquote go back, although I don't think anything is going to be exactly the way it was. And hopefully, but if I don't do that now, I'm not going to get, God willing, we're not going to have anything like this happen again. So I'm not going to get the chance to reset like that again.
Yeah.
So yeah, the time scarcity being a mindset and in my head was definitely one big thing that I took away. Another big thing came out of the very sad event of Chadwick Boseman's passing, which was when he passed, and for so many people, even people who didn't know him, we all felt like he was in our homes for so many years. Felt like we knew him, right? And when you and also very few people knew that he was sick. So we all saw what he had been doing and accomplishing while fighting the fight that he was fighting, physically and emotional and all of that. And I simultaneously had been hearing and clocking that so many people at that point in the year, and for many points throughout the year, were saying, fuck 2020, fuck this year. Screw this year, I just want this year to be over. And what struck me so hard when he passed was, I'm okay with wishing things didn't happen the way they did. I'm okay with wishing politics were different. I can say fuck politics, fuck COVID, fuck all of this stuff, but I am not going to say fuck 2020, because that means I'm wishing away time. And that is not something, that is a finite resource. That is something that we don't all get. And Chadwick Boseman did not get enough of it. And so many people don't get enough of it. So I decided in that moment that I will never, ever, 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 ever wish away time. And I was not going to say fuck 2020, because I think a lot of really important changes are going to come out of that year, particularly for people who, for so many people who have had to reassess their life in so many different ways. And then finally, I think my third, I would say, came out of, there were so many political and social events that happened over the course of 2020, and this was particularly around when the George Floyd incident happened. Everybody, the takeaway from this was that everybody is an activist in their own different ways, and that people should not judge others or themselves for how they choose to make a difference. It's just that you choose to be a part of the solution. Some people were marching. Other people didn't feel safe doing that, so they were retweeting charities. Other people were doing online charity drives. Other people were like, I have $0 to offer, but I'm going to put $1 towards this charity. Everybody has their own way of doing it. Other people were just taking care of their neighbors throughout COVID. Like, everybody has their own way of making a difference. And, similar to that famous quote, everybody is fighting a battle that you know nothing about, so be kind.
Yeah.
Everybody is fighting the battle in a different way. So especially for celebrities, quote unquote, or people in the public eye, I think it's really important that we citizens don't judge people for doing it in their own way, because we never know how someone is fighting the good fight. Prince did so much incredible charitable work that no one knew about while he was alive.
Facts.
No one had any idea. And Van Jones, I remember when Prince passed away, he told the world about it in tears, because he was like, no one knows that he's doing these things, or that he was doing these things, because as part of his I don't know what you, as part of being a Jehovah's Witness, so much of it for him was not drawing attention to the good you do, you just do it.
Well,
You know?
whew, girl, I mean, well,
It
that's
was like once.
I'm like, well, that was such a, you didn't just drop so many nuggets. Well, it's been a great episode of Sip. I'm just
I'm like the.
you just gave
Great.
such good.
Completely agree. And I
Yeah.
want to, before we move into getting to know you a little bit more, I just wanted to say, I think 1, 2, and 3 that you just brought up have such beautiful cross-way connects. That time, kindness, if those 2 alone can be taken away, that you don't know the other person's struggle, and if you lead with a little bit of kindness, I think when you said that about time and kindness, I was like, they really the greatest sickness that I took, because when you find the time, you can't always find the time for the things that you want to do or the person you want to be with and all. So it's kind of like perspective is amazing. So I'm like, that was.
But even with you saying, yeah, no, but even with what you were saying is like, you don't know what other people are going through. And I think that's so important too. And I mean, to listen, to understand, not listen to respond, and that we're all going through stuff and everyone has their own way of how they go through battles, how they perceive things. But I think if you do have kindness, then it's like you're looking at things in a different way than just looking at it from one side.
Yeah.
I think that,
Along, kindness is brother is compassion or
yeah.
sister, right? And so for so many of us, I've often said this in my life, that I'm going to give the pain a purpose, even if it's just to have compassion for someone who's going through something that I now have to go through. Because if there is going to be a purpose through me going through any kind of shitty situation, it's going to be, I now understand someone else who's going through it. And that kind of compassion, the putting yourself in other people's shoes, or even trying to, if you can't necessarily do that for specifically, take a moment to be like, you know what, you are absolutely right. I do not know what it is like. Madam, you are absolutely right. I do not know what it is like to be the mother of a young Black man in America. I can never pretend that I know that experience, but what I can do is imagine what it is like, and it terrifies me for my family, and I feel compassion for you.
Love
And I
that.
want to support that. Or if you say that to so many people, to people who don't necessarily understand what the Asian community is going through right now, with so much Asian hate coming, people, there's so much that we really just need to take the time, as you said, take the time to stop, get out of our own heads, and try to get into someone else's, and really use that as a moment to see eye to eye.
1000%.
Need more people like you. So let's get to know a little bit more about you.
Yeah.
Okay.
And this badass business that you find yourself in, darling. I mean, you're in the umbrella of entertainment, so she's a bad woman that entertainment. But I will say this: I want to go back to. I mean, your resume is scattered with accolades and big bold shows and here, there, and everywhere. I want to go back to kind of the genesis, and was this business and entertainment something that was pumping through your blood as a young girl, or was this something that you kind of just stumbled across and was like, this makes me happy? And what was that journey like in the beginning of actually getting that first breakthrough?
Well, first of all, it was definitely the former. It was definitely part of my life in one way or another since I was a little girl. I mean, I wrote my first play in first grade. It's one of those things. We're going to do this play, and I'm going to do it in front of the class, and we're going to. It was very bizarre. Like if we were to do it now, it would be like an episode of Black Mirror. It was very bizarre. So it was always something. But I feel like all kids have that in them, and it's just about whether that continues to get cultivated, or they lean into it, or whether society and the school system beats that out of them. Like it's all kind of already in there. And theater especially, it's part of the school system. Everybody's got the school plays, we had our second grade puppet show. Like that's always a part, at least hopefully it will continue to always be a part of the educational system. So in that sense, I always loved it. I loved, I think some of my greatest work was when I did an autobiographical book report on Mahatma Gandhi, dressed as Mahatma Gandhi with a bald cap. This was in the 6th grade. I think that was the greatest character work that I ever did. So again, creativity always a part of my life. And my parents, although they were both surgeons, actually met doing a play in medical school. So it was in the blood, it was in the air, even if neither one of them chose it as a career.
Okay.
Both of them on separate occasions told me, my dad several years before he passed, and my mom literally like 2 weeks ago, both of them told me that they would have loved to be actors. But this is what they ended up choosing for a variety of reasons. But they were always very artistic in the house. And even though in the Indian community for many years, acting was not necessarily accepted as a career choice, now it's more and more becoming so. But despite that, the arts are very celebrated as a study in Indian culture.
Okay.
Everybody's studying classical Indian dance or music or something like that. It's just, most of them end up also becoming doctors or engineers or IT professionals or lawyers or a million different things that people in our community are. So yeah, it was always there. And then I think it was probably in maybe mid high school that I started putting two and two together and realizing, oh wow, I can actually do this as a job. Like people do theater for a living. That's a thing I can do. I'm allowed to do that. And at first, basically my parents were very supportive, but they were also like, great, if you're going to do this, you got to figure out how to do it really well and make a living at it. That's your job. That's not ours. We will support you and we're right behind you, but you got to figure all that out. Your college graduation present is financial independence. Go make a living. Goodbye, but we got you. They were always there as my safety net. God forbid something horrible happened. They were always there for that. But they really wanted me to know that, like, no matter what you do, if you're a doctor or if you're an artist, you got to make a living. That's your job.
Yes.
And so I went to Northwestern in Chicago for theater. And then basically, and I am not to be hated for this, but I know that there are many actors who are like, oh, well, that made it easy for you. I started working pretty soon after I graduated in the theater at one of the biggest theaters in the city there. It was the Goodman Theater, working with a director named Mary Zimmerman, who I went on to do 18 theater productions with over the course of our friendship. So she's freaking amazing. And the first, not the first, but we did a play called Metamorphoses in 1998 that then ended up going to Broadway. So I moved to New York with that. And then I started doing TV out there and just started like gradually adding more and more branches of the tree. So I was doing musicals, I was doing theater, I was doing plays, musicals, opera, whatever anyone would pay me to do that's legal. I was all about the storytelling. So that's kind of, that's kind of I wouldn't say that's the short version, but it is kind of the short version.
It's middle ground version.
Yeah.
There's definitely like some other things, but I will have to ask because a lot of actors when they do try to get into the business, it's not that quick usually. But even through your journey, I know that you've had to get so many no's because that's just how this business works. It doesn't matter if you're A-list or if you're just beginning or somewhere in the middle. So I do have to ask, for those moments that you were getting the no's, what kept you motivated to keep going? Because it's a very, very, very hard business to get into and stay in. It doesn't matter who you are.
I mean, there are several things. One of them is I come from a very ambitious family, so the acceptance of failure as a reason to give up is not a thing. If someone says no, you don't just stop. If you just keep going. And if it's something you still want to do, you can pivot to something else, but you don't just stop. You don't just give up. And the lovely thing about acting, for at least in my opinion, is you don't really have to give up acting you don't have to quit to have a break or to save yourself from the things that are stressful in it. You just have to adjust your life accordingly. You have to make sure you're paying your bills and not being this ridiculous, idea of the starving artist as the noble artist. I think it's total bullshit. No one needs to be starving. You can be hungry. You can be hungry but there ain't no reason to be starving unless you're about to be like, Christian Bale in The Machinist. There ain't no reason to starve yourself for your craft unless it is something that you are doing intentionally to somehow you more excited about it. But we don't need to live La Boheme. We can perform it, but we don't need to live it. And then also there is, I guess I just never really thought of no as a permanent thing. And the longer I am in this business, the more I realize, a friend of mine said it the perfect way. And it was totally like he was dropping manna from heaven when he said this. I was whining on the phone about being like, oh, meow, meow, things are not going well. And he said, listen, when it's your destiny, it's not about luck, it's about endurance. I thought, okay, well, here's the thing. I don't ever want to not be acting. I plan to be acting until the day I die, because there's no reason to quit, because you can have, look, freaking Sir Anthony Hopkins just won a freaking Oscar. You know what I mean? Like, you can be any age. So it really is for me about lasting. It is not about waiting for the big break. It is not about expecting myself to be A-list or this or that. We don't do that in other careers. We don't say a successful doctor is a famous doctor. We don't say a successful engineer is the one who's on the cover of People magazine, right? It's a person who makes a living and helps others doing the thing they love and care about, that they've put their minds to. That is a success. And so in that sense, redefining success for myself has been definitely a huge part of this. Now it's easier for me to say all of this right now, because hindsight is 2020, and you can look back at the story and be like, oh yeah, all through. But also, I cannot deny the power of having the right people around you to support you emotionally, mentally,
Yeah.
in other ways, when you are feeling like a loser, or when you are feeling like things are awful. My manager, I was just having brunch with her. She's really family to me. She's really my sister, And I remember there was only one time in my career that I ever thought about quitting. Was back in 2014, and for whatever reason, I thought maybe this is the universe telling me that it's time to, like, take a break or stop or whatever. And my incredible manager, who, like I said, is my sister, she said, when my clients say that they feel that way, I listen, and I really do. When someone feels that way, I usually tell them, you know what, go ahead and take a break. If you're feeling that, it's probably true. You, however, are not allowed to quit, because you are too good, so find a way. And just that one sentence was enough for me to go, okay. Because if she believed in me more than I believed in me, and she's the one who's working the hardest for me,
True.
there's no reason for me to be, like, doubting myself. What I needed to do is just find a way to make the rest of life while I was waiting better, to fill up my life, to make sure that I was paying my bills, to make sure that I was finding ways to get some kind of creative fulfillment, even if it had nothing to do with acting.
Yeah.
There had to be something that was filling the well.
But I feel like you touched on so many different things, though, about like staying the course, but also keeping it real, because this business, I don't care if you're an actress, musician, PR, whatever it may be, it's so difficult, those moments, because everyone's trying to do it. So I think you touched on so many things and said things that I feel like I've never even heard before, which I thought was so good, being like, why do we have to measure success based on fame? And I think that's so important that you said that. It's like, as long as you're doing what you love and you're happy, that is success. You don't have to be to do it.
Especially now, when we have social media and everybody is curating their life to make it look like our lives are perfect, or some people, I should say everybody.
The highlight reel, people are living their best lie and not their best life.
And look, I am all about posting positive stuff. Like, I'm not going to sit here and post my worst days on Instagram, because I don't want to foist that on anybody else. Not because I'm hiding it, but because, like, I don't need to put that energy into someone else's life from me. I don't like to do that. But plenty of people do that in the name of authenticity, and I understand that. However, it is one of the biggest detriments to society of social media. It's good in a million different ways, and it's detrimental in a million different ways. One of the biggest detriments is this like overdeveloped sense of FOMO that all of us have when we're scrolling through things and seeing other people's lives. And I remember being on a trip with my now husband in Maui, the glorious hotel. He was doing a show there, and I got to come along, and sitting there in the hotel room and scrolling through Facebook and seeing someone doing something and being like, oh, I wish I was there with the, oh my God, you are in fucking Maui. Get your shit together. Right?
You know that has a name, comparisonitis.
Yeah.
We're all guilty of it, though. We're all guilty of it. It happens.
We all think now, because we see people in other places while we are where we are, we immediately forget about the place that we are and go to the place that we think we should be. You know, an old friend of mine said, it's FOMO's bastard cousin, Ikimo. I know I'm missing out.
Oh my girl.
Because I'm like, you're right. I am not there. That is absolutely categorically true. I am not.
But you're in Maui, babes, and you're like,
or I'm wherever I am.
That's a vacation that most people don't even get a chance to take. So, but you
right. But we can do that. We can apply that to anything in our lives, because the fact is, no matter what you are doing, you have to be missing out on something because you are where you are. It's just a matter of where you're going to put your focus. Am I going to put my focus on the fact that I am missing out on XYZ, or am I going to put my focus on the fact that I get to be here, wherever here is, whatever is going on?
And speaking of here, girl, speaking of here, because we are short on time, and I want to make sure that we keep this. Yes, we got to. Hello, let's talk about season 2 of Special and how that's about to air. So, you know, let's, for our viewers, give us like a little small kind of background for people who haven't watched the show. What's the show about, and kind of like who this character is, and if there's like some similarities between the character you play and who you are. Go ahead, girl, spill the tea.
Special is an incredible series that I was already a fan of, I have to say, before I even got to be a part of it. So I'm really, really excited to be a part of it. Comes from the mind of Ryan O'Connell, and it's a story basically about a young gay man with CP who's going through all of the challenges in life that all of us go through, in addition to his own personal ones based on his circumstances. And so what I love so much about it is, well, I mean, there's so much I love about it, is it is inclusive and it is diverse and all of those things, but it also points out that our experiences as human beings are all very, very, very similar. You know, we all have senses of being the other at some point in our lives. We all have those moments of being annoyed because someone is pitying us for something that we are, that we don't need pity for. I shouldn't say we all have that. I certainly have moments of that where people, oh, it's so hard to be so short. And I'm like, really? It's not that hard to be so short. I fit great on planes. Why would you say that? I love it. Are you kidding? My husband is like a jungle gym for me because I'm this small. It's amazing.
This is the After Dark special now.
Right? I'm like, ooh.
I mean, excuse me, just but anyway, so that is Special, and it's such a bingeable show. Anyone who hasn't watched it, please get on Netflix, watch season 1. It'll take you, it'll fly by like that. It's got an incredible cast, Ryan and Poonam Patel, and like it's a really fun show. And so season 2 dives even more into the individual stories of all of these main characters as they are continuing to continuing down this journey of trying to grab on to the biggest, fullest, most amazing life that they can. And you start to see a lot of the challenges that they have. And where I get to come in is that Poonam, the one who's Ryan's best friend on the show, you get to see her family. And you get to see a family that puts the fun in dysfunctional, because boy, oh boy, we are a hell of a crew. So anytime you want to see where someone's issues might potentially come from together family. And so I play her mother, which is a joy in so many ways because Poonam's a dear friend and we've worked together before, and just so much fun being there with her. And it's also a fantastic storyline because even though it is in some ways, very traditional family, in some ways, it's a very not traditional family. And I love that we are now living in a world where people no longer are only telling stories about the stereotypes. And
Yes.
you see so many crazy different things happening in families, and also so many of the same things happening in our families across cultures. The mother-daughter friction that can happen, and sibling rivalry and all of that. And so I don't want to give away too much, but I will say that I am thrilled at how fabulous my character is.
Ooh, well,
I love me some fabulous aunties.
okay, okay.
Okay.
So, girl, for people who are living under a rock, let everybody know where they can follow you at. Obviously, watch special, which airs May 20th. Go ahead, girl, spill the tea.
So you can find me on the interwebs, in Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, where my series I Am Fun Size is on there, at Sweet Anj with 3 E's, because apparently I am the only Indian. So it's SWEEETANJ. You can find me there. And then on Facebook at Anjali Bhimani, my full name. And then I actually have a dedicated email for anyone who has questions or whatever where you want to reach me at. So you can reach me at Anjali@IamFunsize.com. And if you want me to talk about topics on I Am Fun Size, we haven't even just gone into that. But if you want me to talk about anything on that show, if you just have questions in general, you can send me an email there, and then we'll say hi.
I like that. She's a giver.
Yes, I love it. I love it, girl. Anjali, thank you, girl, so much for coming on here, sharing your story.
Therapy session. Legit.
You guys, this was so fun. I wish we could do it again.
We're gonna have you on for part 2. We'll have to do a little bit more time.
So maybe after special airs, and then we can give away a little bit more about the show.
There we go. So guys, stay tuned for part 2. Where can everybody follow you at, Mr. Matt Dillon?
You can follow me at Matt Dillon 1983, and my lady love. Where can we find you at?
You guys can follow me across the board at Ariane Andrew, and of course, follow Sippin the Tea TV show on Instagram, Sippin the Tea TV1 on Twitter. And if you're watching this, of course, subscribe, like, share. And for all of our audio people, you can get this on all digital streaming platforms. But we will catch you guys same time, same place of another episode of Sippin the Tea TV show.
Bam! That was incredible. Literally.
Yes.
Yeah, you got the wrong number. Click.